So now we have a poem by Barbara Guest called 20. In some ways harder than the poems, the kind of programmatic poems we've been looking at. But we're ready for this, I think, okay? So how does the number 20 function in this poem? How does it function? Now, step back, relax, go with it. Amaris, how does 20 function?
Well, when I read it, because I was struck by the shift from the number to the word, so I saw it from this sort of childhood anecdote of counting down to losing consciousness when you're trying to fall asleep
Counting
as a child.
Sheep.
And then,
20,
but as an
19,
adult,
18.
Guest switches it to a word, so that I felt like it was counting down to a creative mindset, sort of like state between dreaming and consciousness.
Okay, cool. That's a second level answer. You're famous for these second level answers. Can we come up with a first level answer? Like 20 functions how? How does it work?
Well, like Amaris was saying, 20 is, maybe you're trying to write a poem, you're trying to get yourself into like the mood, the state of mind to be able to write a poem. So you start with something and you start kind of associating and free working with
free
something.
Association. Okay, so
it's
that's the answer I was looking for. Free association, right. So 20 is this, it's that. 20 makes me think this, 20 makes me think that. 20 is not, it's not 7, it's not 13, it's not 3. It's not like freighted with automatic symbolism. It's a kind of a non-symbolic number. Classic New York school move to do association from something that doesn't have automatic associations. Molly?
That's what I was going to say. So I think it frees it to be much more personal. It's like doing a sea poppy rather than a rose.
Oh, cool. Okay. So when she says sleep is 20, can we translate that into, what's another way of saying that? Sleep is 20. Sleep is...
Maybe like real sleep is sleeping for 20 hours, or like a nap sleep is sleeping for 20 minutes.
I think 20 is sleep. Like she's starting...
20 is sleep. 20 makes me think of sleep. Sleep is like 20. 20 is like sleep. It's a shorthand to a simile. So I'm thinking of 20. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of sleep. And then she affirms that. Sleep is 20. But then, a little further down, you get, it's more like 20 Madison Avenue buses. It is what there? Allie, what's it?
Either the 20 itself,
20 is more like
sleep.
20 Madison Avenue buses, or
the image she's already set up.
the thing that you
Directly
just said.
above.
Yeah, Keep going. It being
sleep.
this scenario that what I'm trying to say 20 is like, that maybe is more like, better simile. Okay, now this is associationalism, right? Now it's like buses. This is great New York school surrealism, because you go from sleep and sheep. How do we get from sleep to sheep? Amaris already told us, but...
Kind of association of like sound.
Well, sleep and sheep, right? There's sound.
Yeah.
Counting sheep.
Counting sheep. But she's somewhere, either in her memory or present, and that's Granada, Spain, which is maybe a half hour or 45 minutes north of the coast in the southern part of Spain, near the mountains, the Sierra Nevada. And she seems to be there. Maybe it's a Guadalajara-like thing where she's imagining that she's there. And what happens there?
Well, there's a flamenco dancer, and there is a goat herd and his
Goat
wife
herd and
picking
a
flowers.
shepherd, presumably. Yeah, there's sheep there, so she's imagining not just sheep of sleep counting down, but she's imagining the sheep of Granada. So then we get to the buses, and you get sheep and buses, right? So that's not an easy substitution, right? But the mind can do that, 20 is the splinter swerving, right? 20 allows us to go where the brain needs to go. It's more like 20 Madison Avenue buses while I go droning away at my dream life. Each episode is important. That's what it is. Okay, somebody translate that. Dave, paraphrase that.
Well, each episode is important. In a larger sense, this seems like a bunch of different memories colliding with each other. it seems like it's describing that groggy state, between consciousness and sleep. And 20 keeps coming back as the association, and all these different episodes just keep coming back.
That's what it is.
I think it is the process
The process of
thinking like
likening,
this and associating like
of
this.
simile making, of association, of thinking.
And she says it sequences, each kind of
Sequences. Capital S starts a new sentence, so it might not be the title of her 20-act drama, but it might be. Sequences. I've got going a 20-act drama. That may be a metaphorical drama, but then she goes into the trope, the metaphor of what? A conceit of what?
actors and flowers.
Yeah, the theater. Actors, flowers. Oh, wait a minute. Not just flowers presented on stage, but what kind of flowers now? Her mind is moving.
The yellow caps.
Wildflower.
Wildflowers gathered, back in Grenada, or Granada, picked by the wife of the goat herd. Each morning while I slept. She seems to be remembering, Emily?
Some vacation, some time spent in Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, and every morning the wife of the goat herd brought her flowers. This is a nice memory. Don't you want a memory like that? I do. Under the snow cone, presumably in the reading she says snow cane. I'm not sure. I think it's cone. One imagines the mountains, right? So down below the mountains. Yellow caps. So the yellow caps are what?
Like flower.
Buttercups, maybe.
Yeah, probably the top of the flowers, these particular wild flowers. But now she does what with the yellow caps? She likens them to castanets. Molly, do a little castanet thing. You've got the whole thing going. Let's do the flamenco right now. So what is that? What kind of simile is that? Snow caps like castanets?
Synesthetic.
Is synesthetic second? That's second level answer. First level answer is that they look like castanets. They're shaped. Okay, let's go to the synesthesia. What does that mean?
Synesthesia means kind of a mixing of the senses. So you have yellow caps like castanets. So kind of the sound yellow caps like castanets.
Ah, nice.
It's kind of staccato, which sounds
Right,
like
and
the sound
the
a castanet
castanets
would
are
make.
percussive, and they're going to be. This is a regional culture reference, presumably to the reference back to the flamenco and to the southern Spanish scene. I reach into my bouquet, half dreaming, and count 20 yellow-capped heads, and now, Dave, flowers clicking 20 times. What do we got there?
Well, the 20 comes back into it. That's been the thread through everything, and it gets combined flowers and castanets, and it just all kicks
Clicking.
back.
This is the percussion. This is the sound of the Spanish regional culture music, because they like to repeat themselves, as I do. What does she mean by that? As I do.
Well, castanets are used in dancing to keep time as the dancer moves. And here we've seen that the 20 recurs in the same way the castanets, whereas the images move.
Nice. So association, images, ideas, sequencing through association, like the percussion, like a percussion of this memory, as I do, as does the morning, or the drama one hopes will be enacted. How many times? This is a 20-act drama. What drama is she referring to? I don't know the answer to this, and I asked the question, but let's give it a try. Max, what drama? Be large.
It could very well be any drama, whether it's a play she's working on, it may as well be 20 acts. It seems sort of arbitrary. It could be 20 acts. It could be 21 acts.
So you're thinking of it as an actual drama. Can we go a little larger than that, Molly?
Her life.
Yeah, as I do, as does the morning. This is a waking poem in a way, right? This is a coming from half consciousness to full consciousness poem. This is memory of Spain, of that time in Spain, thinking dreamlike association of 20 this, 20 that. New York, we do come back to New York. this is the morning, and the drama one hopes will be acted many times. Could be what, Molly?
Well, I feel like she's trying to say that she'll have many, many nights and many mornings and many memories. And
This is a long-running show, this,
Yeah.
this poetry that I do, this art, this waking, this life, acted many times as even these dreams in similar people's heads. And then we get a break. Then we get the word 20 again, or the number 20, and then another break, and then castanets. The poem ends with 20 castanets. How does that end? Talk to me almost musically about this, or imagistically about this, Allie.
Well, it consolidates the entire poem first into, the image of the words, 20 castanets, and you can kind of visualize 20 castanets kind of in a row or in a clump or whatever. But it leaves me with just the sound of 20 castanets kind of chirping away.
Nice. Let's keep going on this. Anybody else?
Like kind of like ultra condensed. It's kind of like, sometimes you'll get this in like a fiction workshop. Like you have this amazing last sentence ending, but maybe you haven't quite earned it yet. So she's
earned it.
She has to earn this, like,
In the
this great
fiction
last.
writing workshop sense of earned it.
She's gotta earn
You
the-
did the work. But not only did she do the work, but typical of a postmodern poet, and particularly of a New York school poet following the instruction manual. For instance,
You show the process of
you
working to it.
You don't only earn it, but you show how you got there. And showing how you got there helps you pull off what used to be enough for HD, for instance. I say HD because Barbara Guest wrote a wonderful biography of HD and was really interested in the history of imagism and referring back to that. And so it gets all of this association with its New York schoolish interest in surrealism and have consciousness and association gets rendered into this compressed synesthetic image of 20 castanets. That's actually, in a way, the bouquet, right, gets rendered imagistically. It's also the drama of her ongoing acted out ism, her aesthetic ism. There it all is. So you get Spain's sound and a kind of a loving reference to a regional geographic culture that's probably a little more serious and emotional than Guadalajara in the instruction manual. You get New York's active, droning and ongoing serial theatricality, and these are merged through the possibility of sleep's dreamy surrealism and associationism, and that gets to be presented at the end. Wow, I mean, I really like this, but I don't mean to push that on you. What do you think? I mean, what does this poem do for you? What does it teach you? Allie, say something.
Yeah, I really like it too. It's such a lovely poem linguistically all the way through, and I think that 20 castanets at the end really does service to it, because it kind of almost finds a way to substitute music for language so that you could kind of read it through listening. You kind of stop reading, and instead there's just the echo
Nice.
of 20 castanets.
Nice. Yes, very musical in that sense. Max?
There's something, of course, because it's called 20. There's something necessarily mathematical about it. And I think that it's almost algebraic, and that she's sort of balancing both sides of this equation. She's going between Granada and New York, between these two like dream states, these associative states, and what she gets at the end is that image. Like that's what the equation resolves to, 20 castanets.
Yeah, I mean, I love it that this is what happens to people interested in experimental poetry. You know, if I were to go to I'm sorry to pick on my parents, but if I went to my parents and I said, 20 castanets, isn't that beautiful? They'd say, well, there you go again. And but if I showed them the work that got done to get there, they would get it. I think they would get it. They'd be interested. They're not readers of poetry, but they are humans who, to be sure, they are humans who know how the mind associates. And so let's riff on 20, and then at the end, let's condense it all to a final way of saying, well, that's where I got. Now the New York School is going to show you how I got there, and that in itself, like the instruction manual, is a way of being. It's very interesting. A couple more final thoughts on this, Molly?
I think the form of the poem really mirrors the act of falling asleep, where your mind starts to wander, but you have the one anchor. She's got the 20 that sort of keeps coming back and gives everything a shape. And then the very end, the last two lines, I think really sticks as that sort of final image before you fall asleep, where it all comes together and it's the last thing you remember.
And to me, it felt a little bit like New Descending the Staircase, in that we start with 20, and I felt the progression of number to word to the images, and finally the castanets at the end seem to draw just a sort of thematic unity throughout, both in the image and the sense. And exactly like Ali was saying, it's that merging, we're left with that clicking sound that's also an image and a meaning.
I feel similar to Molly, but I felt like it was waking up, and that this so well mirrored that grogginess when you're waking up and your mind's just completely chaos, and then it progresses more and more concretely. And here, the last association, 20, comes in, and then it becomes solid with castanets, and then she wakes up.
I just want to finally just praise a fairly traditional juxtaposition. Sleep is 20 at the beginning, remembering the insignificant flamenco dancer in Granada who became important as you watched the mountain ridge, the dry hills. There's something really beautiful about that. So first of all, it's somewhat ironizing cause and effect. It's also telling us how images, the sound and image of the flamenco dancer, which is pretty impressive, but insignificant, but only when one understood what? The region, when one thought about where one was. There's just something, why did it become important? There's a connection between human art and sound and body percussion, I guess you could say flamenco is, and those mountains. And so she goes back to New York with a new view about why insignificant things, hum-colored cabs, would take on significance in the larger scheme. This is a little like a step away from them in that sense. And I just also have to say, I don't ever apologize for teaching the New York school through the set-piece poems, such as Instruction Manual, The Day Lady Di, or Variations on a Theme by Williams. But it seems to me, with due respect to them, this is the kind of poem that the New York school gives us, where it's hard, but not finally all that hard. If we just let the association go the way it goes, we're going to get something quite beautiful and going in several different directions at once.